Hi, everybody. Welcome back to Everyday Equity, Everyday Ways to Make a Change. My name is Pooja, your host and the founder of Boundless Awareness, where we create anti-oppression curriculum and facilitate it to companies, universities, and nonprofits. With me today is Mahalene Dulay. I am so happy to speak with you today. This is actually the first time we've had a financial and wealth advisor on our LinkedIn Live, and I'm just really excited to talk to you and for our audience to hear all of the wisdom that you have to give. Mahalene is a wealth advisor for women of color, helping high achieving women of color professionals and small business owners like myself build and protect their wealth to elevate their influence and their impact. Your work is so important. Especially in the financial education and just kind of the guidance area. I'd love to hear from you how you introduce yourself and to color in the lines a little bit of what your work entails.
Yes, thank you for having me. I'm really excited. Even just in our pre-call before this, I knew that the synergy was going to be there. So I'm just very excited to be part of this platform to speak to all of you today and and have this recording available. But as she mentioned, my name is Mahalene Dulay. I reside here in San Diego, California, boy mom of 3, proud daughter of Filipino immigrant parents. And as mentioned, I'm founder and wealth advisor of Modern Wealth Collective. And I'll get more into my story as we go into the conversation. What I really love telling people is that for so long, women of color have waited for a seat at the money table. I got tired of waiting and built my own. So that's how Modern Wealth Collective was born. I mean, as you can see, I do not look like your traditional financial advisor on Wall Street. And I think that shows that shows a lot in terms of the representation that's needed in our industry and in the money space. So I appreciate the work that you're doing as well and having this platform available for me to share about equity when it comes to money and building our wealth.
Yeah, thank you so much. Let's just get started in what you just mentioned. When we think of wealth advisors, financial advisors, those who understand how all of these systems work, and for some people, that is so like the idea of financial education is intimidating. And so, can you tell us like how you got into this work? Why you, as someone who's like, I really steer clear of all of this. Why is this interesting to you? How, like, what do you find different in terms of like, when people are looking for like that typical like white male financial advisor who like, regardless if they're good or not, get the benefit of the doubt of like, people are like, oh, you must know what you're talking about. I want to talk about those experiences too. But first, how did your interest in finance and wealth building come about, and what has been your experience so far?
Absolutely. My story started before I was born. And the reason why I say that is because I mentioned earlier that my parents are immigrants from the Philippines. They came to America with the idea of the American dream. And for those of you who resonate as a daughter or a child of immigrant parents, understand the sacrifice, resilience, and hard work that it takes for them to leave everything that they've known to something completely new and build from there. My parents, they worked 9 to 5 jobs. They worked multiple jobs. And it was really important for them to be able to build a strong foundation for my sister and myself and for future generations to come. They realized that the 9 to 5 job really wasn't cutting it. And that's when they decided to open up their own business. They were entrepreneurs themselves. They had a very successful business for 30 years. And all throughout that time, they did literally everything by themselves. So, as a business owner, which I'm sure you can relate to, is that you wear a lot of the hats.
Yeah.
And all throughout this time, while being business owners, running their business, they're also raising my sister and me. They're also assimilating to the American culture. We were maybe one of 2 Asian families that lived in our neighborhood. And it was really difficult to see this comparison, if you will, that my parents constantly had in trying to live and uphold that American dream. Why this is important is because I've seen a lot of the struggle. My parents were very financially savvy. I'm very fortunate that we have an open relationship and conversation when we talk about money, but they did it all by themselves. So there's absolutely no guidance in how to run their business in the personal finance aspect of it. And so that was one of the first experiences of the importance of having a trusted person and team to help guide somebody along the way. Another instance and experience really was when I started working in the industry itself. I graduated from USD with a degree in finance. I started my work as a financial advisor with a larger firm, and not surprisingly enough, I was the only woman of color in the office. There were other female financial advisors as well, but the only one that represented women of color in that space. And honestly, for the 10 and a half years that I was working with my larger firm, I didn't really see a lot of the things that I recognize now, because I was just so focused with building my practice, keeping your head in the game, and building from there. 2018 happened. I decided to leave my firm, start Modern Wealth Collective. And even for the first 2 years, from 2018 to 2020, it was like a rebuilding phase again. All throughout that time, I've made really fantastic relationships with clients. When I started, for those of you, I'm not going to totally date myself, but for those of you who may remember the 2007, 2008 real estate crisis, I mean, could you imagine, a college student coming out, a college graduate coming out, asking people to work with them and to trust them with their money. And so throughout that time, I've seen a lot of the highs in the market and the economy, and I've also seen a lot of the lows. But all throughout that time, money has been consistent, and money continues to be something that's part of our day-to-day lives, something that's integrated and intersected with business goals, personal goals. And it wasn't until 2020 when I realized that all of these experiences that I've had that I never really said out loud and never really put in the forefront the importance of having that representation in the money space. That's where I called my 2020 vision. It became really clear to me in 2020 that who I was serving, my purpose, my mission really is for the diverse communities that have historically not been represented haven't been represented for too long. And so I shifted my brand and branded Modern Wealth Collective to be this welcoming table for diverse communities, for women of color, for LGBTQ plus clients, and for allies to come and have a space where they feel not ashamed to talk about money, to feel non-judgmental, to feel like they're seen and they're heard, and they can see through me, and the way that I approach money is more of a holistic, non-mansplaining, non-complex way for them to feel more confident about where they're headed. So I wouldn't say that there was one pivotal moment or pivotal experience that said, this was my aha moment. I mentioned that throughout my career, again, I never really verbalized what I experienced, but everything from, oh, I only scheduled an appointment with you because you look pretty, to, oh, you're Asian, you must be really good at math, to going to trade shows and having prospects come to the table and say, oh, I'd like to schedule an appointment, but not with you, with your boss. I'm like, well, no, that's not going to fly. So all of those, again, experiences, I think really enhance why I do what I do and why I'm so passionate about having this space for diverse communities. And more importantly, to not shy away from the power and the influence and impact that money has. I feel sometimes a lot of our communities, even culturally, whether it's our background, whatever the case is, we tend to shy away from that. And so, in the line of work that you do, when we talk about equity and we talk about where the money is, the money is part of that equity to elevate our communities and to really bring us that, to give us those open doors and opportunities to really make an impact in what we do.
Absolutely. And the vehicles like the accounts, the financial strategies that people use to build a generational wealth. I mean, that education being spread to our communities, especially to queer, brown communities, immigrant communities, of like, you can use your money to like enhance your future, like with these strategies, and
Mm-hmm.
it has been gate kept for so long, and you are like flinging open the gates and providing all of the very precious education that you and experience that you have had in your life to our community. So I thank you for that. I want to talk a little bit more about the benefit of the doubt, and maybe a little bit of your experiences of the benefit of the doubt that you might get in certain circles. Like, for example, when we first spoke, I was like, this is a person who I want to speak to. She gets it. She gets my family structure, our politics, how we discuss things, and it's not intimidating. And so much time gets wasted with mansplaining, and like I hate my time getting wasted. And like you can tell, like you can read the room really well. And so for me, my benefit of the doubt, I was like, take it. Like, I love talking to you. And you must have also had experiences where people did not give you the benefit of the doubt, simply because of stereotypes or
Mm-hmm.
appearances. So, can we talk a little bit about the impact of that, of getting the benefit of the doubt from certain communities or not getting the benefit of the doubt from other communities?
Mm-hmm. I think I would say that it goes both ways, in the sense that communities of color, I feel what I've noticed, and again, when it comes to money and women of color, I don't work with just women of color. There's this intersectionality of so many different complexities to our identity, and the mission and the brand that we have is really about, we're taking the approach that come as you are, come authentically as you are. So on one hand, we have communities of color that I feel have never talked about money growing up. Maybe they've had a really bad experience. I mean, if you look at, again, where the money is circulated in our economy and in our communities, you don't have a lot of that in communities of color. And because of that, I think people tend to shy away from financial advice and financial education, in the sense that, hey, I have to have a lot of money in order to work with you. Even though that you sound great, your brand sounds great, you sound like a really cool person to talk to. But if I don't have this money, the said money, to be able to work with you and really get that financial advice, why should I even bother?
Mm-hmm.
And I think that is a really hard thing to come by, because for so long the system has always been, hey, if you have $500,000 or $1 million plus, yeah, we'll give you, we'll give you that benefit of the doubt, we'll give you that call and open our doors to work with you. And in understanding that a lot of communities of color, many of us are even first generation wealth builders, understanding that presents this opportunity of the old structure of money management is not conducive to our communities. So, for example, one of the ways that I tackle that challenge is offering clients financial planning strategies. So it's a full comprehensive financial plan. You don't have to have assets invested with us. And so we look at doing a monthly membership instead. Very much how you would take care of your physical or your mental health. You take care of your financial wealth or financial health by investing in yourself and investing in somebody who's going to not close the door on you because you don't have a lot of money
Mm-hmm.
to be able to work with us.
Yeah. Would well, I want to ask you, people who are fall into this bucket of, um, I just don't think I have the money to even like approach a financial advisor or a wealth advisor. Um, what advice would you give them if they were like, look, I'm intimidated by this whole process, but like I think I should be starting somewhere. What is one or two steps that people can do who are just beginning this process of thinking
In
about their wealth?
in our industry, I've noticed that there's been a rise in what's called financial coaches. Financial coaches, I think, are a fantastic stepping stone for people who are trying to um, I guess like the mindset and just kind of the foundational aspects of their money. I mentioned earlier that a lot of the experiences that we have for anybody, whether it's seeing what our parents have done with their money, the way that they talk about it, the way that it's spent. We talk about things like the relationship that we have with money, whether it's on ourselves. Maybe we're not proud of the decisions that we made in the past and think that's going to be a reflection of what our money decisions are going to be moving
Yeah.
forward.
Hmm.
Financial coaches, what I found, have been a really fantastic stepping stone for those who are like, I want to have an idea of what it could look like, but I have to get out of my head and out of these experiences to say that I am not bad with money. I just had these bad experiences and I just don't know where to go. I need to have that clarity before I can then take on the next steps for more tactical and strategic ways to build my wealth from there. So I think that's one really fantastic way for people who are maybe not feeling as ready, or maybe feeling, like you said, intimidated about working with a financial advisor, is really focusing on like their mindset, and having a financial coach is a great way to do that. So there's this really fantastic synergy between financial coaches and financial advisors, where financial coaches can help with the foundational aspect of money and then be able to move them along to the next step and encourage their clients to say, okay, you are ready to work with a financial advisor to like really hone in on the deeper financial strategies to then champion your wealth to the next step.
Okay, so my next question is, what is the difference between a financial coach and a financial advisor, and what would be considered kind of like foundational aspects that someone would learn? Is there a foundation that people ought to have before they work with you?
For financial advisors are typically licensed. So we go through a very rigorous testing testing process to get our series licenses. There are some that are certified financial planners. Financial advisors uphold a fiduciary responsibility to our clients. Our industry is very heavily regulated in that sense, where our clients' best interests always come first. And again, we do the right thing by our clients. Many financial coaches may not have the same licenses, and so they cannot give financial advice or financial planning strategies. So, for example, they cannot dive into, based off of what a person's goals are and their situation, they can't say, I recommend XYZ stock or mutual
Mhm.
fund or whatever for your situation. But what they can do is that they can guide clients in, again, those deeper aspects of money mindset, and even help to I've found a lot of financial coaches that I partner with to also work on things like debt management and not and budgeting. Even the idea of calling a budget more of an intentional spending plan is such a huge mind shift in itself, from scarcity mindset to I'm being more purposeful with my money.
Hmm.
So I think that's where financial coaches really excel and thrive, and again, partner really well with financial advisors, is to help almost like prepper clients, right, to get into that better position. For myself personally, there are some clients who come to us who don't necessarily work with a financial coach first. They come straight to us. They're like, hey, you know what, here's where I want to be, here's what I have, here's where I'm finding the biggest challenges. And I have conversations with clients, take a look at where they're at in their financial stage. If I feel that, there are a lot of there's a lot of inner work that needs to be done before we can start diving into more of the complexities of financial planning, then I would recommend that they go to a financial coach first. But there are some clients who are, who are ready, and I can still help them with their debt management, still make sure that they have like a great system in place for their cash flow, and then, be able to build upon that. So I think that a big part of the difference in financial coaching versus financial advising, a lot of it is where that client is at in their financial journey, and again, like really understanding that one provides financial advice where the other cannot.
Yeah. What are some kind of hang-ups, habits, um, mindsets that you encounter in your clients where you think, we need to change this mindset first before we can, or while we are, executing this financial strategy or investing in X, Y, or Z, like we should work on how you think about this. Do you have any like common ways that people kind of come into their client relationship with you and you're like, the way you're thinking about this, we could think about it in a different way, or maybe a scarcity mindset versus another abundance mindset, or some trauma that they bring into this relationship that is affecting the way that they are either managing or approaching their money.
Mm-hmm. The numbers that we see on paper tell a lot of a client story. For example, if somebody comes to me and says, I want to invest, I want to do XYZ, I want to build my wealth, but I have a lot of credit card debt, I have these student loans, and I find myself almost living paycheck to paycheck. Those are some things or some cues for me to think about. Okay, first let's dive into why is it that you feel the way that you feel, and why we're having these type of habits, why we're incurring more debt instead of paying it down. Why do you feel like you're living paycheck to paycheck? And this is even true for the 6-7 figure plus earners that I work with too, is that just because you make a lot more money in that sense doesn't mean that you still feel like you're living paycheck to paycheck. And I think a lot of it too is just not having a system in place, not having that clarity in place on what should I do. And I think that's what the holdup is for a lot of people. It's almost like analysis paralysis, or they get so overwhelmed with there's so much information that you just shut down and say, you know what, I'm just not going to deal with it.
Totally.
And I think for anybody who is working with a financial advisor, is that there needs to be this again, synergy, like the two-way relationship. A financial advisor can give all the strategies and all the recommendations in the world, but if client is not ready to implement those and not ready to take action, then that's also a cue of, you know what, I think there's something deeper that's underlying in why you're not taking that step forward. And in my scope of work, I don't want to dive into anything that I don't feel as comfortable, or that I feel is, outside, again, my line of work. And so that's at that point where working with a financial coach, or financial therapist in some cases, that's where I think could be, again, really beneficial for clients.
Yeah. Okay. So for those people who, I remember in our pre-call, we were talking about, asking your employer if they had resources. Could you talk a little bit about what possible resources employers may have or have invested in?
You talked a lot about, or you mentioned earlier about financial education and financial literacy.
Yeah.
And I want to preface the money platform and like money decisions that we make, that I mean, in school, it's very well known. This is the one thing that I always get is, I wish people would have talked about money in school. I wish it would have been better prepared before leaving school about credit cards, et cetera, things like that. And that lack of financial literacy and education carries with us throughout our adult life. When we get a job or we become a business owner, we start earning income, and then there's all these intricacies about taxes and benefits, and how does this translate to the benefits that it gives my family or to my partner or to my spouse. Going back to what I talked about earlier, it's overwhelm, analysis paralysis, too much information.
Yep.
Where I think employers can be where employers can create a platform that's advantageous not just for them but for their employees is creating financial wellness programs. And this isn't just, hey, we're going to have a benefits fair, your 401k provider or your insurance provider is going to be there, so make changes if you need to. The problem with that is that it's very much a looking at a one piece kind of thing instead of looking at a holistic aspect for the client. So again, if a client's going into, or if an employee is going to their benefits fair thinking like, okay, like I know I need to do XYZ for this, but what does that mean when it impacts this? Yes. And so if employers put together or work with financial advisors to create more of a holistic aspect, it's not so much of going in of, hey, we're going to be the sole provider for your benefits. It's how can we take all of these different benefits that you have already and put it in an educational manner, whether it's through a series of workshops, whether it's a combination of handouts, whether it's, giving clients action items that they can do to check in. Those are things that I think employers can do to help their employees. Money is a stressor. We know that. And if you are at a job and money is a big stressor for you there, productivity is going to be down. That's what you're constantly thinking about. It hinders people from being able to maybe even talk to their employers about potential raises or promotions and things like that. So I think for employees being aware of how their benefits work, feeling more confident about how they intersect with one another, it's a big benefit for employers to do that. It can help, again, boost productivity and just make a happier environment for the employees.
Yes, absolutely. As we're winding down on this incredible conversation, I want to ask if listeners could take away just one message from our conversation, what would you say?
Oof, one message. I know you gave me this question and I was like, bring it down to one message. Okay. There's so many, we could talk about this for so long. One message I would say is actually what I mentioned earlier, is that if ever you're feeling stuck or if you're ever feeling like you need more clarity, to remind yourself that, again, past decisions do not reflect who you are today or who you can be in the future. And especially when it comes to your wealth and your money, if you didn't have a good experience growing up, maybe your family never talked about money, maybe you went through a pivotal life transition like a divorce or had kids or whatever the case is that the beauty about financial planning and wealth building is that it is ever evolving. And so it is something that is core to who you are. The financial plan will only work with two things. One is that you are very clear on your why you're investing, while you're building it, like what are your financial goals? And then two is understanding that you don't have to do it alone. So to avoid the analysis paralysis, finding a trusted wealth team that's going to help you, being your best advocate, like I said, at work to gain more understanding and education about the benefits. And then for those of you that are business owners or entrepreneurs, is find the spheres and circles of influence that you can, that you can safely talk to about money. having those open conversations about money is very empowering, and it's something that we especially for communities of color we don't talk about enough. And I think it's about darn time to really use our voices, our money as power and influence for the good.
Yeah, love that message. Absolutely. Um, get in touch with Mahalene. Get a discovery call on your calendar. Get on her newsletter. Get the information. We're opening the gates to make sure that everybody can build their wealth, build a wealth for the next generation, especially in such high uncertainty right now. You can find Mahalene at Modern Wealth Collective on Instagram, Facebook, and LinkedIn. Get on her newsletter and book that discovery call today, because you don't know what education you're missing out on. Mahalene, thank you so much for your time. Finance, money, wealth building, it's such a underappreciated, underrepresented subject in our communities. And, it's about time we dispelled a myth about it and
Mm-hmm.
like join in on the wealth building, because, we all deserve that, and our next generation does too.
Absolutely.
Thank you so much for your time today. Thank you, everybody, for joining us. We will be back in 2 weeks with our next episode, and see you then.
Thank
Bye bye.
you.